Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, Reds from around the world. It's your host Dan and Drew from the LFC transfer room. We have double D's in the house. We are here with an instant match reaction as Liverpool bounced back from a 1-0 defeat at Forest with a 3-0 win at home to Bournemouth. Your goal scorers today were Luis Diaz and Darwin Nunez. The last 30 minutes were a bit interesting. And all in all, a good time to be a Liverpool fan before the City Arsenal game this Sunday, which we're all hoping that they both lose, which we wish could happen, but statistically is impossible to happen. Drew, how did you like the game? Are you happy now? Are you happy again after the doldrums of Saturday with losing the Forest?
Yes, I was one of the ones who was losing his head quite a bit, so I'll raise my hand there. But the reaction that we needed was given midweek and then followed up today. I think it was very scrappy today. If you just look at the scored line, you're probably like smooth. But yeah, it was early morning game for me. I'm still injecting coffee in, but I'll take the 3 points as well. What were your thoughts on it?
No, I mean, I thought so this is gonna be terrible. I actually slept through the first bit because I didn't go to bed. So I woke up and we were already 2-0 up, and then I turned on the TV and Nunez scored. So maybe the rule of thumb for Liverpool games is that I just have to sleep through them, which I normally don't do on the weekends, but it's been really like chilly and cloudy over here in Boston. So when it gets like that, when I sleep, I hibernate because usually I get woken up by like the sun because it shines right in. But this time I was just like I was dead asleep, and then I woke up. I'm like, oh, the game's about to start. No, it was already starting. So I missed a lot. I missed a lot the first 30 minutes. I did go back and rewatch some of it though. So I did kind of see what the fact that Bournemouth went 1-0 up, goal gets ruled out. Everyone was already about to lose their heads again. But I want to start from the beginning though, with the lineups. So Nunez started. What were your feelings on that when you saw that lineup drop? Were you like, oh, it's time to give up on Darwin? Or are you just like, why is Jota being taken out? Or were you more of in line with, if you're going to give Nunez a start, this is the best opportunity?
I was completely fine with it. Like, I am on the more critic side of Darwin, but feel like every Liverpool fan wants him to succeed. And if you don't, you're not really supporting well. But you can be critical of players, but you still need to back them. And when Darwin was in on the lineup, I was just laughing at Slot's pre-match interview where he was talking about Jota and being like he's playing well. He's been the starter. Like Darwin, maybe in time will get his chance. And then I wonder if that was his like first real mind game to like try to throw off Bournemouth because if they're like, oh, Jota's starting, they're gonna set up totally different. I don't know how much effect that had, but I was kind of like when I saw Nunez on the sheet, I was like, all right, like Gakpo got his chance in the midweek, he took it. Darwin's time to step up. And I think he did enough to justify at least some more starts moving forward, at the very least, a place in the team, because he does offer something that I believe no one else in the team does.
Yeah, and I think that we saw Darwin's best abilities, but also where he's improved from Arne Slot's coaching. I also think we've seen where there isn't quite, you could still see where there is room for improvement. I think there was a couple times he had tried some passes around the corner that didn't quite come together, but Mo Salah missed a lot of chances, missed a couple of opportunities as well with some of his passing being under hit, making the wrong decision, which is just, it's going to happen. But this is one of those opportunities where Mo Salah isn't on his game, but Nunez and Diaz were enough on their game that it doesn't really matter. And I think you can see that in the score line. I do want to talk about Bournemouth a bit. I think we Bournemouth is a very interesting side because I think they're going to cause a lot of teams a lot of problems because they have a lot of very specific players. They have talented, technical, pacey wingers. Simeone is someone that we saw that scored against us last year. They have Alex Scott, the midfielder, who I think is a top six midfielder. I'm so surprised Tottenham didn't try to buy him because they could use him. Chelsea bought everyone under the sun. He would have been a good buy for them. I'm surprised United didn't buy Alex Scott. I granted, I think it's because of the price that Bournemouth would have asked for because I think they paid like 25 for him last year. But Alex Scott is a very, very good up and coming midfielder. Miko Kurtikis, who is Hungarian, I believe their left back, very, very good, talented player. I think Liverpool should be looking at him as a potential replacement for Robertson and Simicast in the future. But I think the 3-0 scoreline very much flatters Liverpool a bit. I think it showed our ruthlessness more than maybe maybe our general play, but I also think we also outplayed them in all aspects. What are your thoughts on kind of the first half a bit in a more broader sense of how we played and how Bournemouth approached the game?
Yeah, I definitely think Bournemouth were up for the challenge. Like they did get the ball in the back of the net. It was offsides, poor offsides because the player shouldn't have been. But they definitely didn't back down from that point. And I think they're unlucky that Kepa like absolutely waffled that first goal and possibly the second goal too. Like brilliantly taken goal from Diaz. Like the control on his like thigh, like hip area, and then the turn and finish was absolutely top drawer. But Kepa, like, what are you doing coming out of your box in that position? You had defenders behind him, like on the side of him. There was no reason he should have went for that ball, but he did. And then they gave Liverpool the goal. Next thing you know, a couple minutes later, Diaz is in again. And it was really tidy finish by Diaz, but very close to Kepa. I don't know if he could have done better, but I think after that point, like even after the first goal, it's like it's whenever you let in a stupid goal that you're just you can't give away those chances, especially to teams like Liverpool, where they're gonna capitalize on it and then they can just like wedge their foot in the door, break it open, and then all that planning, all that hard work you've done is just undone in the manner of a few minutes. So unlucky from that end on Kepa, but I thought Bournemouth showed a lot of quality, and for us, I think I'm a little worried about how sloppy we can be at certain points in the game.
Yeah, and I think we've seen at times that sloppiness both in the Milan game, the Forest game. I think the Forest game is the worst iteration of that, where we were sloppy and it eroded our performance. We degenerated from a perfectly fine first half to frantic up until even Forest scored, and then after that, all the composure's gone. And I think at times that there is that control. There is a control, more control in our game now compared to last year. And at times, I think that you can also see where if things aren't quite coming off, can you maintain that control? And that's more of the question that we're going to have to see over the neck of the entire season. I do think it's important though to stress for everyone watching right now on X and YouTube. If you're watching us on Twitter/X, please head over to the YouTube channel LFC Transfer Room, hit the like, hit the subscribe, so you can get the post-match reactions. You can get our daily live streams. There is a new version of the podcast coming out. I can now announce this because we are being plugged for it. We're plugging that John Actenberg. We're getting Big Jono on for a podcast, so that is going to be up shortly as well. But back to what you said, Drew. Yeah, I think at times we've seen a more controlled Liverpool, and yet I think you can also see where it's still not quite the most perfect iteration. I do think today, though, and we've said this. Well, at least I've said this last year, and I've heard other people say this, and I think you are of the same opinion that you have to be ruthless when you get these chances, especially a team like Bournemouth that are dangerous, and like Forest. When you get opportunities, you have to be ruthless. And at Forest, we weren't ruthless. We were wasteful and sloppy. But today, when Bournemouth was sloppy, we were ruthless, and that's what you have to be to win titles. And I think we were ruthless. We were brilliant. I I I think there's obvious things we can improve on in the game, especially for that first half and that last half, up until I think Curtis Jones comes on, where we can assert more control. But I think there is going to be this push and pull with the players and slot where they're going to have to find that happy medium of pushing for a goal, for more goals, because Darwin wants to score, Cody wants to score, Chiesa wants to score, Salah wants to score. They've all triple captained themselves on fantasy football. Allegedly, Lucas Paqueta's probably got a bit on someone. And now that Ivan Tony's away in Saudi Arabia, he probably has a bet on someone too. So they're all competing to get those goals at the end, and I think that that's going to be something that's just going to have to evolve over the next couple of games. I do want to talk about. I think I want to talk about two players, one in defense, one in midfield, and I want to get your thoughts on them. So Ryan Gravenberg, the Lisan Al Gaib himself. What are your thoughts on Ryan Gravenberch, Drew?
I actually thought this wasn't his best game so far, but that being said, that just shows the standard that he's at. Like he's been absolutely phenomenal. I'm not even saying he had a bad game. I'm just like he was great today. He was great, and I think like the quality that he brings and his abilities as a player, it's just amazing to see in that position. Hold on. I'm a little sick, so I'm trying to work through it.
You're good. You're good. You're good. Keep. Yeah. No. I agree with you. I think he misplaced a couple passes, but there were so many times. I have to say, I don't think I've seen a better midfielder for Liverpool play since Thiago, and I think Thiago was our best midfielder for many years. I love Genie, but in terms of like overall performance, I think Ryan Garber has shown that ability to just turn, beat a man, put a pass on, even though he missed some of his passes. But he's like taller, more athletic, bigger stride. And I mean, I don't want to go back to like the Stevie G era because I think we fell into that trap last year a bit. Even though I meant it a little bit tongue in cheek with Szoboszlai, but I think he's been our best. I think Ryan Gravenberch has been our best midfielder all year so far by a long while, and I think he's been our best midfielder that I have seen for Liverpool, and going back to the heydays of the greatest midfielder in the world. What are your thoughts on that more controversial sense of like I know it's like 5 games, and like my thing is we should just overreact because we're Liverpool fans. You know, we're not here to be objective observers of football. We're Liverpool fans talking about Liverpool players. I think Gravenberch has shown his evolution more and more defensively, offensively, in possession, running with the ball, dropping, recycling the ball. He just has everything. But, just keep me going, Drew. Tell me I'm crazy.
No, I mean, I think it's all good in like support and encouragement and admiration because that's what he's deserving from his performances right now. And as you said, for me, like when you talked about his ability to turn on the ball, split players, and move forward and progress, I don't think that's something we've seen very often. We're used to that kind of destroyer in the midfield in that kind of role, and Slot kind of has developed a different type of holding midfielder and Gravenberch, even too, like his ability to like hold off the opposition while staying on the ball. It's almost like he's playing hold up play, like as a striker, and then able to either split the pressure on him or find the right ball. And for me, the only other player in the midfield right now, I think Dominic's had a kind of rough kind of start to the season. He's had some good moments, had some bad, but McAllister, like, his ability to, like, just pass the ball, like, on the go, like, his first touch to pass has been like, today was phenomenal. I think he put in Salah once or twice with some brilliant balls, and just, like, his awareness, his vision is really great. So I think that combination of McAllister and Gravenberch, like, the way they complement each other, I'm very excited for the season moving forward. And as you said, for the Gravenberch phrase, I think the fact that what is it, the Dutch national team, Coleman hasn't, or yeah, hasn't, what is it, Van Gaal? Is it Van Gaal or yeah, right on the Dutch national team?
It's
I think
Koeman right
they
now. Koeman.
Coleman, yeah. So the fact that they brought him back like into the squad, like just shows you how highly he's rated. Because I remember Koeman making that like very standoffish, like I don't want him in the team. He thinks he's a big shot, like not refusing to called up, all that. So the fact that he's been like the center of attention, it's not just Liverpool fans. I think he's getting the attention, admiration, and praise that he deserves for his performances.
There was a tweet I saw was I think it was one of the LFC accounts. I think it was like Barry something something had said that Gravenberch is playing what United fans thought Pogba was in their head, which I thought was pretty hilarious. I think that's a bit unfair on Gravenberch and Paul Pogba because what Paul Pogba did at Juventus and then what he was doing and I think brought in to do at United is completely different than what Gravenberch is because Pogba at United's youth academy was a midfielder, was kind of a mix of a box to box attacking midfielder. And when he went to Juventus, he was not a destroyer. He was very much a box to box attacking midfielder. And then when United bought him, they try to convert him to a more defensive midfielder, but that was never his strength. He was always closer to being an 8 or a 10. I would actually say that Paul Pogba in all of his career was much closer to a traditional number 10 in an Odegaard sense, or even a Mesut Ozil sense, someone that floats and is better at being able to have less defensive responsibilities. And he's just never really been that that interested in doing the defensive side of his game beyond, say, screening and positioning. I think Gravenberch, what surprised me so much is that he actually wants those responsibilities. He's very good at them. And he and Alexis McAllister, this is what's so interesting about that double pivot, is that they are both both have the same strengths, and their weaknesses, you would argue, is maybe just aerial wins, but they all cover for each other. And they're very complementary in the sense that there's no clear strength or weakness. There's no clear weaknesses in their overall game, and they cover for each other very well. So you can see and I think in this game and every game we've seen, either Gravenberch is the further forward or McAllister is the further forward, and then one of them drops. And it just depends on game state, opponent, or where they are in the move, where they ended up in a move, in a set piece, or in a corner. And I think that is the most interesting, incredible part of this midfield right now, is that they all have very similar profiles of each other.
I like what you said about the responsibility that Gravenberch took on. Like, I feel like that was for me the biggest difference. It seemed like Pogba was like a luxury player almost. Like he complemented like the midfield in Juventus. I mean, you had Pirlo in there for a while, so like you didn't need like the responsibility or burden to be on Pogba's
Kadira,
shoulders there. Yeah,
Semi
Kadira,
Kadira. Yeah, they
yeah.
had Semi Kadira doing all the defensive work.
But as you said, like Gravenberch has taken on the responsibility. We were all like up in arms about not signing reinforcement in the midfield. Zubamendi deal fell through, and Gravenberch is like, all right, that's my shot. But I'm imagining the next player you're going to ask about. Oh, you said defense, but
Yeah, defense.
I want to highlight Luis Diaz and get your thoughts on
Okay.
Luis Diaz before we jump back to the defense.
Oh, of course. I think so. Listen, I'm not gonna lie. I was very much wooed over by the Anthony Gordon chat. Not because I think that you should replace two players with one player, but if you made the argument to you over the summer that you sell Diaz, you sell Gakpo, you buy Gordon, you buy Zubimendi and Colwell, I think you make the 20 stronger, but you make the 23 weaker, if that makes any sense. So you make your bench for most of your Liverpool Premier League games stronger, but your Champions League games, you're much weaker if you need to rotate beyond the 21st or 22nd player. I think what we've seen from Diaz, and this is what I've always wondered, is that he's becoming more and more, I hate to use this term because people are going to misunderstand what I mean. He's becoming more Sadio Mane-esque, where instead of being involved and build up more and more in terms of trickery and dribbles and crosses, he's now doing more. He's at the end, he's finishing attacks. So he's finishing more of like an inside forward now rather than a more of a winger that cuts inside. And I think that evolution is something that Slot has been really big on since preseason, is getting Diaz closer to the width of the post. And I think what we've seen from Luis Diaz is that even when he has not great games or the ball's bouncing off him, he's getting good finishes in. And I think that's because now he's getting more opportunities on the ball in the box in these areas, and it's not just coming to him randomly. I think he's shown that evolution to a more goal scoring wide forward than, say, a Martinelli, someone who dribbles and does a lot of things and has brilliant, I hate the term ball striking, but the assisted goals aren't there. I think the Diaz is becoming more and more of that Mane-esque finisher, finishing moves, than maybe someone who's a more of a traditional tricky winger. But I want that. I want Diaz to be more of someone that gets goals and doesn't have like 5 dribbles and 3 takeons a game. What are your thoughts on that?
No, I completely agree, and I like that comparison. So I'm not throwing you under the bus there. I think our bet, like one of my favorite seasons, was when Salah and Mane got the Golden Boot together, because that kind of output you need from two players. I think that helped with those years is like when Salah wasn't scoring, Mane was scoring. When Mane wasn't scoring, Salah was scoring. Firmino would chip in. So that was what was like beautiful about that attack. And it seemed like that Salah has taken most of the burden since the post Mane years, and especially Firmino gone. We haven't had that fluidity in attack. It almost seems like it hasn't quite gelled yet. But as you said, Diaz is taking that step forward under Slot to provide those goals and assists. And that's the numbers you need because you can't rely on one person to put it in the back of the net, and you need another like talisman at least to put up the numbers of like 20 goals in a Premier League season or approaching that level. It can't just be Salah. So totally agreement with what you're saying about the Diaz evolution.
And I think it's an evolution based on maybe a realization that Diaz, you can either have Diaz be a winger that gives you width and helps stretch the play and gives you take ons and beats a man and serves a very functional purpose, like Grealish at City, or you can have him finishing attacks and scoring goals, like we've seen him now. And he's not Sadio Mane, where he can do both, because Sadio Mane, when they both won the Golden Boot, I think that's 19. Is that was that 18-19 when we
Um,
missed by point? If you remember in 18-19, Mane would do both the job of holding width and getting inside and scoring, so he could do both. I think with Diaz, you have to kind of choose his role very specifically and develop that. And I think what Slot has decided, mostly because I think with personnel, is that get Diaz inside more, and you've seen that a lot with Robertson giving width, and then maybe inverting it for a couple minutes with Diaz giving width and Robertson inside. Robertson inside, like we saw against Forest, sadly. Which if Grammar plays a better pass, maybe Robertson gets a shot off and scores. But I also think you see that with the AC Milan game when Simic has had like 6 shots. And I think that's more and I think that's more of a realization that Diaz is not Sadio Mane holistically. So you have to choose which version of that left wing position do you want. Do you want a more left wing holding width winger, or do you want him to be more inside forward? And I think that's always going to be dictated by game state and opponent and situation, and also form. I think Slot is very willing to be more. I think Slot has no loyalty to these players, not in a like mean sense. I think Slot can say, "All right, Lucho, I want you to do this from now on instead of this." So instead of him holding width for most of the game, he's now getting inside the post more. And he'll say that I want you to do that for 30 minutes, and then you can hold width for 30 minutes. Well, I think with Jurgen Klopp, getting in different situations, I think he always wanted you're going to start here and move inside like Mane did, or like watch Sadio Mane and do what he does, start outside and weave your way inside. And I think when we get that version of Luis Diaz, it's better. So the defender I was going to mention, I do want to give a shout out to Kelleher, who was good. Queven Kelleher, who came in for Allison, who has a slightly tight hamstring, which hope it's not too bad. Yogesh, yeah, getting that in. The defender I wanted to call out is Konate, Ibu Konate, because I think he was our best defender today by a long shot. I think he was solid. I think you're seeing the real Konate back. He's now played every single game for us. Back to back, he has started just about every game except for Ipswich. So since being subbed on, at Ipswich, he has started every game, and I think we're seeing his quality come through. So I think Konate was our best defender by a milestone. I think Robertson was solid, and I think we saw Trent have a Trent game, good for 20, 30 minutes, do his defensive duties and get an assist. But what are your thoughts on my Konate shout? And have you been impressed with Konate? I mean, I think the answer is yes. Let me rephrase that. Are you surprised that Konate made this comeback, considering that Kwanzaa was seen as the second center back going into the season?
Um, not really. I think once the door was open for Konate to come back in, I thought that at this stage in their careers, Konate is the better player. Like this, the next step up. That's why Kwanzaa can't get a sniff back in. Not to say Kwanzaa can't get there or potentially surpass Konate at some point, but Konate's levels are like he's in balance with Van Dijk. I feel like Van Dijk has carried a lot of center back partnerships. Some players have complimented him in the past, but he was really the one like leading the line. Versus it's almost like he can pass on responsibility to Ibu and not have to always cover for Ibu. I think like just clearly at the end of the game when I think it got really scrappy and I was pretty disappointed, almost fell into like old kind of habits of just end to end when it's like it's 3-0. We don't need to be this careless with making the hero ball up the field and then it not pulling back and then being like suddenly having to face an onslaught from Bournemouth. But Ibu was immense in breaking up the play, like blocking shots. And he had a moment where he celebrated a block shot at the end, a la like Arsenal defenders at every stop. But I was proud to see Ibu do it because he definitely, as you said, he's been absolutely phenomenal, and he like, it's a proud moment. The clean sheets that we've had, what is it, 3 and 4 games? That's immense. Like, we're already starting off on the right foot in that regards. We've gotten lucky in some areas, Kelleher's reaction saves. I don't know how Bournemouth didn't get the ball in the net once, but Ibu's been a massive part. I still think Van Dijk has been Mr. Cool, Calm, and Collect. Like, I think was it Gravenberch or Zabasla? Somebody, like, passed him the ball when there was a defender, like, right on his back and like the whole of Anfield just shouted like "Man on!" and like Verge just like passed it right back, held him off, and didn't even react. So for me,
Yeah, it
Virgil's
was.
always going to be there.
Yeah, it was Grab who passed it to him. I think he went the ball wide to Salah. I know what you're talking about because they had their striker right off his shoulder, I think, to try and nick it. Yeah, and I mean, I agree with you. I think that Bournemouth were unlucky not to get a goal. Again, I think it reminds me a lot of that 3-1 last year, where I think you saw Bournemouth's quality at times, but we just see the game through. What I will say about Konate, and I know he's mentioned here the injuries, I think they may have fixed his injury, knock on wood issues. Currently right now, like you said, we have 3 clean sheets in 4 games. We have more clean sheets than goals conceded. We have more clean sheets than expected goals conceded. I think our expected goals conceded now is maybe around like 2 or 3. So it's actually about the same. And our goals scored. So we actually have not even just our actual stats on paper, but the underlying change over time stats show that our defense is much better, our offense is still very good, and as long as we keep that up, I think we'll be. I think we'll be. I think. I think. I think we're going to be. I've said this from the beginning. I think we'll be in a title challenge. Whether or not we win the title is a whole nother discussion. And for me, every year, as long as you're in a title challenge, that's all I want out of Liverpool every season as much as they can. Be in a title challenge, be in a title challenge. Because if you're in a title challenge, you'll finish top 4. You're probably going to be in a cup competition. You're probably going to progress in Europe, and that's all you should really ask from this team because you can never guarantee winning a title because there's only one team that can win a title every year. And what made Liverpool so great in the past was being in title challenges consistently over the years. We don't have that much time left. I only want to go a couple more minutes. So again, like I said, everyone who's watching on Twitter, hop onto YouTube if you want to get in the comments because I can't read comments from Twitter. Sadly, Twitter/X. If you follow us on X/Twitter, head over to YouTube, follow us there. We will eventually, hopefully, be going live on Facebook and Instagram. We're still working on the kinks on that, so you can join us there too to get your comments in about the game so far. I just want to wrap up real quick, Drew, was by talking about 2 other players who I think have been much maligned in recent times. So I'll start with Jones first. So I think Curtis Jones came on and was solid. And I think that people forget that Curtis Jones is a very good player. And I think he didn't have a good game against Forest, but a lot of people didn't have a good game, so I don't hold that against him. I don't believe he came on against Milan. I don't remember. Do you remember if he came on against Milan? I don't think
No,
he
I
did.
don't.
Yeah,
I
so
don't remember.
so he came on when the game was a bit hectic, and I thought he did a very good job of just keeping keeping us in the game, keep us involved, and recycling the ball, and even help creating a couple of attacking opportunities. I've always said this: if Curtis Jones is your 5th or 6th best midfielder, you have a great midfield because he. I don't think there's any. If name me a, so I'm going to name out a couple of midfielders. Is he better than Drewsbury Hall? Yes. Is he better than Kobe Mainu? Yes. Is he better than Manuel Ugarte? Some people would say no because Ugarte is more of a ball-winning midfielder. Is he better right now than Casemiro? Absolutely. Is he better than Declan Rice? No. Is he better than Jorginho? I think he's better than Jorginho. Is he better than Thomas Partey? I think he's better than Partey, mostly in his on the ball and his awareness, and he's not 30, among other things. Is he better than Mateus Nunez at City? I think so, because Pep Guardiola obviously doesn't rate Mateus Nunez. They literally bought Ikai Gundogan back because they don't rate Mateus Nunez. So I think Curtis Jones as your fifth, sixth best midfielder is like that's a very good squad. Arsenal were interested in him, and Arsenal do not have that many midfielders. They do not have as deep as a squad as people think they do. Same with City. And the other player, obviously, I know we talked about him, but I just want to mention him again, is Darwin Nunez, who got a really great goal on his left foot, which is his weaker foot. And I think Darwin has come out the gate, and he's again, as I said in chat, he's improved every game he's been on, or every year he's been here. And I'm just hoping that the opportunity blows up. But the player I want to talk about besides Curtis Jones is Dominic Szoboszlai. I know we've mentioned him before, but I just want to stress again, he's so key to what we do. Even when he misses a pass or he misses a ball, his pressing is there, his awareness is there. He's so tactically switched on. I think that Curtis Jones and Dominic Szoboszlai are two players where they're just essential to how we're going to perform this year in two different ways. One is as a starting player and on the and doing the press, and one is on the bench. So what are your thoughts on Curtis and Dominic Szoboszlai? And I guess lastly, give me your man of the match.
For me, Curtis has always been solid. I just think his injury records are just really against him. I think when he's had the purple patches at Liverpool, it's been like when he's been in the squad for like 7 or 8 matches, he's had like 2 or 3 goals, like maybe an assist in there, and then he'll be injured for like 2 months. So he's never gotten like a full season of even just being a reliable bench player. And for me, that's always something like that makes it hard to judge him. I'm always going to be fine with having him on the bench, but until he can make that jump, I don't know what his role will be moving forward. I'm certainly not going to slate him or be like, he's not good enough for the team because he shows he can be. Kind of reminds me of a Gomez situation where, like, at Gomez's best, he was partnering Van Dijk winning the Champions League, like Premier League, like years, very essential part to the team. I don't know Curtis Jones's future, but in that Dominic Szoboszlai, like, role, I think that he can play that role. I think Dominic definitely has, like, the capabilities of absolutely thriving in it. I think Slot mentioned, like, more goal contributions, more goals, more assists, because that's what he's looking out of that role. So I think whoever can grab that element of that position first has a real shot at keeping it. Um, but I really do appreciate Szoboszlai's effort and his energy because he definitely can run the whole game and just put the pressure on the other team. I think it's his passing does like when you make a bad pass in like a crucial area, everyone just like groans. It's it's just something that's going to get harped on because that's like the most like focused on moment is when you're in a crucial area and you give the ball away. But for me, the biggest thing is Elliott being injured. I think this is the worst time for Elliott to be injured because if anyone could actually throw themselves in the conversation, I think Elliott has shown every time that he gets like onto the field that he gives it 100%. Not saying Dominic or Jones are any different, but I think there's something special about Elliott, and it's just a shame that he's not going to be able to put his name in the hat. But man of the match is easily Diaz for me at the end. What's your side of the story for that one?
I think Yogesh brings up a good point about Szoboszlai where he is 23. So I think there is that point of that there is still development to come from him. I think when Arsenal buy Declan Rice, I think he's 24, 25, and Declan Rice at that time before they bought him was not the Declan Rice we have now. So I think with Szoboszlai, I agree, and I think that he would also agree that he they want him to score more goals and get more assists. And I completely agree, especially for that 10 position with the players we have, with the chances we create. He should definitely be putting them away more. I said at the beginning of last week, I believe, before we had the Forest game, which came back to bite me in the rear end a bit, is that I said that having Elliott out, while kind of sucks, this is the best time to have him out because we have the numbers to make up for him, and it's not that many games and that many days. We can circle around him. After the Forest game, you kind of realize that not having Elliott, having that extra attacking 10, does miss out, does hurt you a bit when you need that extra change, especially when your other 10's not doing so well. But with Kay's up to speed now and no really other injuries we know of, no long-term injuries, apart from Elliott's, who again is supposed to be back from October. And again, his is more of it's a contact injury. It's like it's bones on his foot, which just happens from now and then. I'm less worried about him, going forward. You know, I think Jones is always just going to be someone that is never going to win people over. It's very much like the Jordan Henderson, Genie Wijnaldum situation where if you don't if you don't see what they offer, no one's going to convince you. So you just have to back that the manager knows what he's doing, and I think Arne Slot knows what he's doing. All right. So Drew, I think we're gonna wrap it up there. So final thoughts, men of the match, and who do you want to win on Sunday?
Diaz was the choice for me, easy one. Final thoughts, just getting the win. Like, I think we need to Slot very much wants patience and possession. I think we lost that at the end of the game. Didn't come back to bite us, but I don't think it should be end to end at that stage in the game as soon as we're a goal or two up. But can't argue with the result. That's all I want. So get that habit of winning, get the confidence of the lads up. So that's all positive for me. And for tomorrow's match, a nice 0-0 draw, or that's completely boring, or 2-2. I don't want either team to win, and that's the ideal result. But what about you?
I completely agree. I think that's important that we got another clean sheet. My man of the match would be. I think you can't look past 2 goals from Diaz. So to be different, I'm going to say. I think I'm going to go with Kelleher for those 2 good saves and just being solid. I'm going to give it to Kelleher for keeping us in the game and not letting a goal and keeping that clean sheet streak up. He's now 100% for the year. Like I said tomorrow at the beginning of the stream, I wish tomorrow both teams could lose, but yeah, I think any draw is the best result. Or if you have to do it, an Arsenal win. I think an Arsenal win is not the end of the world because they'll get so confident about it, and they're already don't have so many players missing out that they're just going to have to grind out so many results with so many players missing. But yeah, I think that would be my final thoughts on the subject. I will say, last question though before we end the stream, Drew, are we going to win the league?
Even my heart's absolutely behind the lads, so we'll see. But we'll see. I'm gonna end on that. We'll see. I know it's a cop out. We'll see.
I'm gonna say we're gonna win the league until we can't win the league anymore, and that's the delusion. That's the illusion we have to live under as Liverpool fans against City. But I think we'll win the league. I think if they keep this up, I think we'll be good. So Drew, have a good evening. Go get some food, man. Everyone else watching around the world, everyone watching on X, Twitter, and YouTube, please hop over to YouTube to subscribe. Hit that like button. Leave a comment so I can leave your comments during these quick live streams. There'll be another stream later today at 2:30. Get your thoughts in there if you guys were not able to make the stream, or if you wanted to say something but couldn't. That'll be at 2:30 today. There is a new podcast coming out with an interview with John Achterberg. That should be up shortly as well. And like I said, every day, guys, 2:30 Eastern Standard Time, 7:30 British Standard Time, or your local equivalent. From myself, from Drew, up the Reds. You never walk alone. Ta-ta.